Squad, please.
The Women's Tennis Association, or WTA, is the principal organising body of female professional tennis and governs the WTA Tour, the game's global professional circuit for women. Founded on the principle of equal opportunity, it is today a world leader in women's professional sport, admired for its long-standing commitment to both gender equality and developing girls and women as leaders through sport. Watched by a record-breaking global audience of 700 million people in 2019, the WTA soared to new heights that year. Ashley Barty claimed its biggest winner's check of almost $4.5 million at the WTA finals, and Naomi Osaka became the highest-paid female athlete in history. All of this a far cry from September 1970, when a group of 9 women symbolically signed $1 contracts, establishing the first women's professional tennis tournament in the hope of achieving the same level of recognition enjoyed by their male counterparts. That group of players, known as the Original 9, laid the foundations for the women's game as we know it today. Inequality had long been soldered into the structures of tennis, but 1968 saw the dawn of a new era, the Open era, when Grand Slam tournaments agreed to allow professional players to compete with amateurs, permitting all tennis players the opportunity to make a living by playing the game. But while the tennis authorities levelled the playing field in one respect, it remained unbalanced for a particular group of competitors, women. In the first Open tournament at Wimbledon in 1968, men's singles champion Rod Laver won £2,000, while the female victor Billie Jean King took home just £750. "I didn't have any idea we were going to get different prize money," King said in an interview for the PBS documentary American Masters. "I thought it was totally unfair." By 1969, ratios of 5-1 in terms of pay between men and women were common at smaller tournaments. By 1970, these figures had increased to up to 12-1. Promoters were making more money than women. Male tennis players were making more money. Everybody was making more money except the women, King famously said. Disparate prize money was only the tip of the iceberg. As the men's game continued to grow, fewer women's events were being held alongside them, reducing the avenues for success for female pros. For the first 8 months, there was a total of $5,000 in prize money for the women, recalls Julie Heldman. There weren't enough tournaments for women to play, and with men, there was truly institutional sexism going on. People won't buy tickets to see women. The cost of travelling to events was a real issue, explained Jane Peaches Bartkowicz. "I remember going to Europe, winning the first 6 tournaments I played, and actually losing money." We went to Jack Kramer, the boss of the Grand Prix circuit, who founded the ATP in 1972, to ask to be better regarded and to be paid more, explains Rosie Casals, the world number 3 in 1970. "He never even wanted to consider it. He didn't believe in us. Women are not supposed to earn a living. We were in big trouble if we wanted to keep playing tennis." The low point in women's pay inequality came before the US Open in 1970. The Pacific Southwest Championships, directed by Jack Kramer, announced the men's winner would earn $12,500 and the women's only $1,500. It was symbolic that one of the oldest tournaments around turned on us, and one of the guys who could have helped turned on us, decried Heldman. Appalled, King and Casals went to see Gladys Heldman, the founder and publisher of World Tennis magazine, the most important tennis publication at the time. They told her that they were considering not playing the tournament out of protest because they thought it was fundamentally unfair to have prize money 8 times lower than the men. But they didn't just want to complain, they wanted to do something concrete. Gladys Heldman decided to go beyond passive resistance. She decided to host an 8-woman invitational tournament, the Houston Women's Invitation, to coincide with the Pacific Southwest, simultaneously offering a fuller prize money purse to those boycotting the other event. With financial backing from tobacco brand Virginia Slims, a total prize purse of $7,500 was amassed for the competitors, highlighting the economic potential for the future of the women's game. Looking to stop the revolution that was quickly unfolding, the USTA threatened to suspend anyone who planned to play this one-off event. Many of the top players stayed away, but 9 women were undeterred, signing on to what would become the Virginia Slims circuit a year later for $1. Billie Jean King, Rosie Casals, Nancy Ritchie, Julie Heldman, Valerie Ziegenfuss, Julie Dalton, Kerry Melville Reid, Peaches Bartkowicz and Chrissy Pigeon were motivated by a shared vision for the future of their sport. Number 1, that any girl born in the world, if she was good enough, would have a place to compete. Number 2, that they'd finally be appreciated for their accomplishments, not their looks. And number 3, to be able to make a living. Those were their dreams, not just for their own cohort, but for future generations. It was to be a battle that went beyond tennis. It was societal. We joined the women's emancipation movement. We were fighting for equality, explained Casals. Despite the USTA's suspension of those original 9 players from its tournaments, by the end of the year, the Virginia Slims circuit was able to boost its numbers to 40 members, which helped pave the way for the first full season of the circuit in 1971. Philip Morris packaged the tour with a slick marketing veneer, and the image of strong, confident athletes deeply contrasted with how people viewed women in regular life. Despite the early skepticism, fans paid to see it. A niche, it seemed, had been filled, and tennis had crossed another threshold. In the face of spectator outcry, the USTA acquiesced to the revolt. Women's tennis was a huge success, says Françoise Dur. People loved the tactical aspect of our game so much. I think that as amateurs, people recognise themselves more in women's tennis than in brutal men's tennis. Then, just before Wimbledon in 1973, 70 female players locked themselves in a room at London's Gloucester Hotel at the initiative of King and Casals. Observers thought the women were organising themselves to join the men's boycott of the championships, sparked by the suspension of Yugoslav player Nikola Pilic. On the contrary, aware that the absence of the best male players would put them in the spotlight, the women wanted to play. In fact, they were creating the WTA in response to the men who had launched the ATP in September 1972. We also needed a structure to allow all players to benefit from the development of women's tennis, recalls Casals. Inside 2 hours, the WTA was born. Looking back, creating their own association and not associating with the men was the best thing for women, says Steve Flink, an American journalist and tennis historian. They were able to promote the uniqueness of women's tennis. King was chosen by her peers to be the first president of the WTA, and in the same year she would give women's tennis a massive boost through the Battle of the Sexes. On the 20th of September 1973, 50 million Americans tuned in to watch King beat Bobby Riggs 6-4, 6-3, 6-3 inside the Astrodome in Houston. The match remains a cultural touchstone, as both a symbol of the anything goes 70s and a measuring stick for progress. Little by little, the men were forced to accept that women's tennis was a success. Their tournaments were multiplying and attracting more and more people. That same year, the US Open became the first of the 4 Grand Slams to award equal prize money to its men's and women's champions, an act that was finally matched by the lone holdout, Wimbledon, in 2007, some 34 years later. Everything goes back to money, whether you like it or not, explains King. I want girls to go for the money. I want boys too, but boys are taught to go for the money. I want girls to be taught, just like the boys, to go for the money. Because it provides opportunity, empowerment. You can take care of yourself, also your loved ones, your family. The reason that these women are making all this money today, and we have equal prize money in the majors, is because of that moment, where we signed our $1 contracts. We created a platform, a global platform. I think we are leaders in women's sports, and I'm really proud of that.